The Billings that Dave McNally grew up in the 1950s was much different from the Billings of today. Billings had just reached about 32,000 people in the 1950 census, and by 1960 it was up to, as I recall, 52,000. It was on its way to becoming the largest city in the state, passing Great Falls. That's a title it holds to this day. This video comes to you from what's known as the Tree Street neighborhood of Billings, Elm Street. Behind me is the house that Dave McNally grew up in, with his single mother, left in that way when her husband was killed a Navy man was killed in the final months of World War II. She was raising a family of 4. Dee, the oldest, followed by Dan, Jim, and then the baby of the family, Dave. Close in to this neighborhood, this cozy neighborhood, were many of Dave's friends. For example, Bob Fry, Pete Cochran, who were teammates of his on the Legion Post 4 teams that Ed Bain coached to a dynasty in Montana and national prominence in the late 50s and early 60s, as well as close by was the home of legendary Legion coach Ed Bain and his 2 sons, Ed Jr. and Jack Bain, also friends of Dave as he grew up. Nearby too was the home of Cease Musburger, who was the, quote, godfather or the founding father of Little League in Billings, and his 2 sons were Brent, the famed sportscaster, and slightly younger Todd, a sports lawyer and sports agent. It was the neighborhood that made Dave McNally who he was. My wife and I are walking west on, well, let's see, I guess this is Polly Drive. On a fateful day in the spring of 1951, Dave McNally would have taken this same route, walking west about 3 blocks, I guess, to Virginia Lane. His stray adopted black and white dog with him on his way to Virginia Lane, and then up to the Little League field at Lissa Field, where he would start his Little League career and take the first step towards becoming a famed Major League pitcher. This is Virginia Lane going north from Polly Drive. Back in the spring of 1951, when Dave made his first trip to Lissa Field and began his Little League career, he would have walked about 3 blocks west on Polly, then turned right, walked north on this street towards Lissa Field. He would have walked past the campus of then Eastern Montana College, which is now Montana State University Billings. This is where Lissa Field once stood, the place where Dave McNally got his start in Little League Baseball in the spring of 1951. Thousands of first Billings boys and later Billings girls, once Little League expanded to include girls, got their start in baseball at this spot. Sadly, it's now a parking lot for MSU Billings. The Lissa Field stood here until sometime in the 1980s, when it was knocked down and replaced by the asphalt that you see here. Still a place in history because it probably was the first Little League field in Montana. Parks in the country. the home of the Billings Mustangs of the Pioneer League, and Legion Post 4, the American Legion team that Dave McNally played for. The crop field stood here until 2007, when it was raised, and Dealer Park, which you can see in the background, its replacement, was constructed here. That same year, 2008, some local people paid for bronze sculptures of the two most famous baseball people in Billings history. Behind me you can see a statue of Dave McNally, and I'll walk about 40 feet to the west, and you will see coming up shortly a statue of Ed Bain, who I knew personally when I was a sports writer at the Billings Gazette, and he became one of the most successful Legion baseball coaches in the country. Behind me, you can see the bronze of, if I get this in the right angle, of Ed Bain. Again, a legend in American Legion coaching circles, not just in Billings, not just in Montana, but throughout the country.